Hey everyone! Today we're going to be discussing COVID-19 perspectives and launching your own practice with special guest Sara Stock. Welcome to the Law Firm Launch Podcast.
Hey Sara Stock.
Hi Jaimee Hall.
I am so excited to have you. You're our second official podcast guest. And of course, I'm excited to have you on our podcast because I love you. You're my business partner and my friend and my client. But I'm so excited that we're starting this podcast because, the whole concept behind Law Firm Launch Podcast is we want to be a resource for lawyers that are either looking to start their own firms or they've started their firm and they've kind of plateaued and they're looking to grow and get to that sort of next level of growth. Or they're looking to launch something completely new, outside of their firm and innovative. I'm more and more seeing so many lawyers starting, side businesses that are solving problems that they're having, in their firm. So, after 9 months of sort of having this vision of this podcast, I was like, you know what? We're just going to dive in. Let's just get this thing done. So, I'm excited about it because I think there are so many existing podcasts out there and educational resources and tools that are formal in nature. And we really just want this to be an informal conversation in which we can pull out of lawyers' brains and hearts the things that have really been impactful for them in their lives and their careers. And it's that authenticity and that transparency, I think, that people really relate to. And it's not a, here's our 3 to 5 bulletin list of how to be successful, right? It's here's how I really effed something up a couple years ago, and I want to help you figure out how not to do that.
Well, and I love that you're doing this right now because I feel like people are craving community and connection in so many ways. So I think it couldn't be better.
Well, awesome. So it's just setting the stage there for that. Feel free to just be yourself, and I will be myself, and we hope this will resonate with some people. So, given the dynamic of everything going on right now, we can't not talk about it, right? I mean, it's affecting all of us, this pandemic. And I would love for you to just share, what's been your biggest lesson learned, or maybe top 2 things that you really have taken away during this time that has just been really impactful for you.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, the top 2 things that are my big takeaways during this global pandemic apply both personally and professionally. So, so many business lessons translate into your personal life. And this is just another example. Yeah. So the first is that when you're in crisis, right? And so many people are feeling, even if their businesses aren't in crisis, they're feeling like they're in crisis right now. There's never been more uncertainty in so many people's lives than there are right now. So when you're in that period of crisis, what some advice that I was given and what I've now experienced is that your behavior as a service provider and as a human is amplified. Mm-hmm. And so if you can be incredibly kind and compassionate and supportive and go above and beyond to really support your client or your friend or your family member, that good is just amplified to the nth degree. Mm-hmm. And the flip side of that coin is that, if you as a service provider or human are withdrawing from people, from clients and saying, no, I don't understand that PPP thing. I'm not going to dive into the mud with you and try to help you solve it. Mm-hmm. That's amplified as well. And I've seen so many examples professionally of service providers who, the team that we surround our clients with is very philosophically aligned with who we are at Stock Legal, right? Our bankers, accountants, financial planners, those other service providers, they're jumping into the mud with clients. They're wrestling with these new regulations and the Treasury's new FAQs and all of the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying, I don't know, but here's our best advice, and let us help you navigate through this really tough time. And clients cannot stop talking about how appreciative they are of us just getting into the mud with them to try to help solve their problem. And the flip of that is that we're hearing clients talk about those service providers that just won't spend the time with them, that won't, maybe they put their out of office up when the stay-at-home order started. I can't believe this. I've built this relationship for 10 years. And when I need X, Y, and Z most, he or she is not there for me.
Yeah.
And clients are never going to forget that, right? And,
Yeah.
while I think that applies all the time, it's amplified in a time of crisis.
That is so true. And how, it doesn't make it easier. So if you're someone who naturally withdraws or disconnects because you're afraid or don't understand, or it's just the way you process things, I love that you're saying the good is also amplified, but it takes like that effort and that step and, getting yourself surrounded with the right people.
Yeah.
And
bringing your best self to the table, right?
Yeah.
Going all in.
Yes, I love that. Well, and on that note, one thing I love, Sara, that you've been doing is the cataloging of the good things, right? And the wins every day. Like, what's something really neat that I saw today in society or with my clients or in business? And so share like, what are some of the good things that you've seen? Because the news, we can talk all day every day about the statistics and the bad things and the deaths and the how the virus is affecting businesses and the shutdowns and all that. So share some good news with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share the good news. And then because I am a deal lawyer, I have the checklist in my mind. And the checklist is saying, hey, you forgot your second thing that you wanted to talk about.
I love it. Okay, yeah, we'll
so I'll share the good. And then if you don't mind, I'd love to go back and share that second thing so that I can close the loop, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'll stick with the personal for the good just to start, right? And then I'll go to the business. A lot of I'm a parent. I have 3 beautiful children. Today they're 13, 11, and 7. And, a lot of people are talking about how hard it is to remote school your kids and juggle the work. And it's so hard. It really is. But the thing that I love, and out of the mouth of babes, right? At the beginning of the pandemic, we were maybe 2 weeks into the stay-at-home order, and we were going around the table at dinner saying what we're grateful for. And my son, Gavin, says, I'm grateful for the stay-at-home order because it means we all get to spend more time together. And I was like, oh my God, you beautiful child. Yes, like this is amazing. It really is. And so, the theme on the personal side is just deeper relationships, right? Deeper relationships with my children. I've spent hours on the phone with friends at night, right? Just talking. And that's not something that, in our go, kids have sports, businesses, society that we really have time for. And so the beauty of this time has been to build deeper relationships, both personally and professionally. So on the business side, not only do I feel like we've built deeper relationships with our clients as we've supported them through this time, but I built deeper relationships with my team. One of the cool things that's come out of this is that, so I should set the stage for just a moment. The way we work at Stock Legal is that everything we do is in the cloud. We have a beautiful office. The lawyers are welcome to come in, but they don't have to. And the only time that we're all together as a team is for our quarterly meetings where I present the firm's financials, talk through firm performance with the lawyers, et cetera. And we joke at the end of each meeting that we should have a work in the office day so that we can all be together once a month, right? So we have Slack, we do a ton of internal communication. There's a lot of internal messaging, but we're not all together. We don't get to see each other's faces. And so at the very beginning of the pandemic, when the stay-at-home order kicked in, we started doing Zooms, 15 to 30 minutes twice a week. And it's been the most magical thing. We update, we talk about, what's happening, our big lessons that we've learned. And then at least once a week, we go around the bingo square and everybody takes 30 to 60 seconds and just talks a little bit about what's going on with them. It could be personal, it could be professional. And that deepening of relationship amongst the team, I didn't realize how much I wanted or needed it, but I'm so grateful now that I have it.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that.
It's been wonderful. It really has.
That's awesome. I think I'm so intrigued by and happy about, the things that you shared, personally and professionally were about relationship.
Yeah.
The positives were about relationship. And I think in this industry, more than others, there's something about we forget that we're human.
Yes.
And lawyers, I have to have it all together, and I'm, billing out this really high rate, so I need to know everything and know all the things, and it's fast paced and it's about the work, and there is a lot of work, and yes, it's about the work, but we're also human. And I wrote that blog, Why I Love Lawyers, in an effort to help society understand, where lawyers might be coming from.
Right.
I just think it's really meaningful that the two things that you shared were both about relationship, because that is like so important to just remember that we're all human and we need relationship, and it's really important, that we foster those as best we can. So thank you.
Well, and I'm going to,
we don't want to forget number 2.
I'm going to continue the theme with number 2, right? And part of our value proposition to our clients is that we are experienced lawyers who do great work, who think creatively, and who engage relationally with clients, right? So there's a reason that there's a theme here. It's just incredibly important to our value proposition to our clients. And my number 2 is along that same lines, really. And it really has to do with communication, right? And to your exact point just a moment ago, Jaimee, we get busy, we're going. We're trying to be really efficient with our time because we know that there are people paying our bills on the other side. And one of the things that I've been talking about with my team is how important, especially right now with things so uncertain, it is to communicate well and often with clients. Yeah. And in fact, over communicate with them. I would rather a client be like, oh my gosh, if I get one more email from this stock legal lawyer on this thing, my head's going to explode. And I will be like, success, right? Because what happens, right, all the time is that we'll get an email from a client on a Monday, hey, I need a project done. And we'll say, great, we'll get back to you this week, right? And in our minds, maybe this week means Friday, right? Because we said this week. And Thursday comes around, the client hasn't heard from us. And we then end up getting an email from the client saying, hey, just checking in on that email or that project. And my ask of my lawyers is, I don't ever want the client to have to send that email. When the project comes in on Monday, if you're not going to get it out until Friday and the client's just asked for it this week, no problem. But let's over communicate like this. Hey, that's fantastic. I have time in my schedule to get started on it on Wednesday. I'll shoot you a quick email to update you on Thursday, and then I will have that project delivered to you by close of business on Friday. Once you say those words, then you actually have to do the thing, right? Because the client is going to look at the invoice and say, hey, you told me you were going to start on Wednesday, and I see you didn't start until Thursday. So we have to follow through. We calendar those things. It's really easy to do. Hold the time on Wednesday, do the work on Wednesday, bill the time on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, proactively send the client that email and say, hey, like I said, started on Wednesday, that email takes 90 seconds to send, right? And then deliver early if you can. Deliver on Thursday, right? Exceed expectations. But if you can't, for God's sake, get the project to the client by close of business on Friday, like we promised. And that little tiny step, right? And it's a little thing, but that little tiny step of reassurance gives clients so much trust and faith in us that we really are acting with integrity. We're doing exactly what we said we were going to do. And I've known that my whole career. I've practiced that my whole career, but that lesson has become blatantly obvious to me during the pandemic when people are so uncertain and they just want a little more reassurance that things are moving along like they've asked.
Absolutely. Well, and I love that too, because I do think that differentiates stock legal. I mean, it's not typical of law firms. I mean, if you ask the American public, I think, the ABA put out a big study a couple years ago and updates it every year on what's the American sentiment towards lawyers.
Yeah.
And 60% of all Americans think that lawyers only care about money and not about clients and not about them. And I have to believe so much of that could be solved by just better communication. Or I never hear back from my lawyer. I email him and it takes weeks before I get a response, or I make a phone call, leave a voicemail, and she never calls me back, or I get an email back instead of a phone call. So I'm really glad you shared that, because I do think that differentiates Stock Legal in other firms, of course, across the country, but that's just not a typical experience of clients when working with law firms.
And it's so important. I mean, I only hire lawyers that genuinely care about the client's well-being. So I know that my team cares, but now we actually have to outwardly show it, right?
Yeah.
So let's demonstrate that to the client, right?
Yeah.
And so it's, and it's a learning curve, and I love the coaching and mentoring opportunities that are coming from it. And I love that clients are willing to share that feedback. Like, hey, I would love to hear from you guys a little bit more. I value that feedback from our clients so much because it helps us grow and it makes us better.
Well, on that note, I think that differentiator that you have within your firm is great advice for any other lawyer that might be looking to start their own firm, like really embrace good communication. And I wonder, what other advice would you give to lawyers thinking about starting up their own thing? Like, having done it now yourself and been 5 years in, 4 years in, what to do, what not to do by Sara Stock.
Dun, dun, dun. It's interesting when I look back, the mistakes are like the big glaring things that I see over the last 5.5 years. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm smiling when I say mistakes because I'm so grateful to have made them. You learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. Right. And when I think about the mistakes that I've made, it's really been in thinking that I can do it all myself, right? Or feeling like the best approach is for me to do it all myself. But let me lay a foundation for that. I genuinely believe that when you start any business, and let's be real, a law firm is just a business, right? It's run just like any other business if you do it right. So yes, exactly. So when you start a business, right, you as the founder have to wear all the hats, right? Like it's a stack of hats.
Mm-hmm.
So the magic in building a business is to know when to start taking the hats off and delegating them out, right? And understanding the opportunity cost of wearing the hat too long is something that's really hard, I think, especially for law firm founders to understand. We think it's just so much cheaper, more efficient, what have you, if I do it myself, then I don't have to pay someone else to do it. And I agree that's true up to a point, but understanding that tipping point, and the mistake that I made was that all too often I found myself working 18 hours a day. And I mean, that's big law firm hours, right? I didn't sign up to be working 18 hours a day, and it just kept sneaking up on me. And I say 18 hours a day because I was doing business development. I was doing some admin work. I was, looking at the financials. I was also then doing the client work and making the client calls and then managing the team. And, if I had a better sense of when to start delegating or had done it faster or had more trust in my ability to develop and grow a business, I wouldn't have put myself through probably 3 years of, sleepless nights. And we would have grown faster and we would have been more profitable, right? The mental step is that you have to accept that when you're growing, sometimes you have to take a half a step back to take 2 huge steps forward, right? Yeah. And that half a step back may be, for this quarter, I'm going to spend this money and my net cash flow is going to be a little lower, but I'm going to trust and believe that by investing and taking that half a step back, that I'm going to see the return on that investment in the next quarter and the next quarter and the next quarter. And in my experience, that's been true. And so if I can give any advice to any business owner, but especially a law firm business owner, if you're looking to grow and scale, trust your instinct on when it's time to start taking those hats off and run the financial analysis to see what the ROI would be if you take a half a step back to take those 2 big steps forward. And then adjust, right? Like at each you're constantly reevaluating and adjusting. Be flexible and be able to pivot, but invest in those foundational things. Like any business owner, we say to our clients all the time, build a solid foundation for your business, and that includes legal. Law firm owners, it's the same thing. Build a solid business foundation if you're looking to grow and scale.
That's awesome. Thank you. I think that's really great. I think that's really great advice. I'm just so impressed with Stock Legal and everything that, you guys are doing and just how you've been growing and trying to be innovative, but also be really reflective and acknowledging, wow, we didn't do that right. Let's do that differently going forward. Yeah. So thank you for your time today and for sharing with us. And yeah, I really appreciate you, hopping on, being a part of our inaugural podcast recordings here. And I know the best is yet to come.
Oh, well, it was so fun to do this, Jaimee. I know and love you so much. And it's so fun to have had this experience with you, because this has been like our every Wednesday conversation where we just, catch up and talk about, ways to improve and grow the business. So thank you for having me. I appreciate
it. All right. Have a great day, Sara.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to hit subscribe or go to legalbackoffice.com for more info.